Hello everyone. In this live video today, I'm going to be talking about the only way you can gain respect from a narcissist. Because I'm sure many of you who are dealing with narcissists, that's something you're really having difficulty with. And of course, that makes a lot of sense because narcissists are self-absorbed. They're all about themselves. And even then, they're not really about themselves, they're about their false self. They're not concerned about anyone else. What they're concerned about is how they see themselves and how they feel about themselves in that moment. And whatever they deem to be a source of power in that moment. Other than that, they're not really concerned with anything. That's all that really matters to them. Which is why it can be very difficult to gain respect from a narcissist, especially considering the fact that they lack empathy. They have an inability to feel what you feel, to share and understand your feelings and experience. So they're definitely limited in that aspect. And research has shown that there's even some issues in the brain where they have decreased gray matter, which definitely impairs their ability to share another person's experience. They quite literally, as I've said before in past videos, they live in a world inside their heads with a population of one. And they typically only befriend or associate with people who validate this inner world, who validate this false character. But other than that, they're really not concerned with anything. If you don't validate it, if you don't go along with it, then they may just ignore you, or they will turn against you, devalue you. And that's what many of you are experiencing now, where you're no longer validating the false self because you see through it. You've woken up to what you're dealing with, and now they've turned against you because that's another way for them to validate it. It's just now, rather than seeking validation from you in a way where they can feel desirable or attractive or intelligent, now for them it's more about power and control. Their mindset is that if you don't validate them, if you don't make them feel special, then they're going to crush you, they're going to put you down, they're going to put you beneath them, so then they feel like they're above you. So then they feel powerful, they feel in control. So that's what many of you are dealing with now. That's why it's very difficult for you to gain their respect. But even then, I mean, at the beginning, when you were validating the false character, when you were going along with it, when you weren't aware of what you were actually dealing with, they didn't really respect you. They didn't even see you. You were just a means, a tool, an appliance that they used to validate this false character, the illusion. And that's all that was. It didn't go any deeper than that. But some people may believe that if you have a good job, if you're earning lots of money, if you live in a nice neighborhood, if you're around the right types of people that narcissists admire and want to be around, if you had good connections, then maybe the narcissist respects you then. but actually, as many of you may have experienced, they don't really respect you. They are just tolerating you so that they can continue benefiting from what you have or from the people that you're around, so that it validates the false self, the false image. It makes them look good. And when they look good, they feel good about themselves. So that's all that really is. It doesn't mean that they respect you. There's only one way, as it says in the video title, only one way to gain respect from a narcissist. The only one sure way to do that is to distance yourself from them, to remove yourself from the situation. Because here's the thing, anything that's around them, anything that's near them, they will devalue it. They will not respect it. Because they look at it like, if it was that great, then what is it doing around them? Because deep down they feel inadequate, they're shame-based, but then they try to deflect the shame, they put it onto you, they devalue you. But this is all coming from their own feelings of inadequacy. I mean, for myself, and I'm sure for many of you, I actually have the opposite mindset. If someone is around me, if they're in my space, I look at it like they must be a pretty amazing person to desire to be around me, to enjoy my company. Of course, with me being a YouTuber, having all of these subscribers and views and all of the work that I've been doing over the past 6 years, that's definitely a part of it, but then also working on myself. I spent a lot of time with myself, building myself up, this character, this confidence. So of course, from all of that work, from all of the time that I've spent building myself, naturally, when someone desires to be around me, I look at it like they must be a wonderful person. Doesn't make me devalue them or disrespect them. But with a narcissist, because of all of that shame, because of those feelings of inadequacy, because of all of that, anyone who gets around them, anyone who gets into their space for a certain amount of time, then they go to devaluing them. Because initially they idealize you, they view you as perfect, and that's what draws them to you. That's what makes them want to be around you. But then they have this black and white mentality because they never matured emotionally past the age of ages 2 or 3. So they have an arrested emotional development. The same as young children, toddlers, where it's like they lack object continency. They haven't learned empathy yet. And so they have a black and white mentality where something is either all good or all bad, right or wrong, perfect or flawed. Initially, they viewed you as being ideal, as being perfect. That's what drew them to you. That's why they wanted to be around you. They idealized you. But then because of the black and white mentality, it's like you couldn't both be perfect. So then it was either you or them. And of course, they have this false character. They abandon who they really are. Or they have to uplift this character. They have to sustain the false self, the existence of it. Because otherwise, it's like death to them. So then the only thing they can do is turn against you. The person who they initially targeted, who they viewed as being ideal, they have to turn against you. Because of everyone. You are the ultimate threat to their illusion of perfection and superiority. I mean, while you're away from them, when they're initially getting to know you and learn you, then they've got you up on the pedestal for a certain amount of time in the beginning, yes. But it's inevitable that they had to turn against you, that they had to devalue you. Because just by being in your presence, they no longer feel perfect or superior anymore. They feel completely flawed in comparison to you. So then they have to turn against you. They have to devalue you. And that's why many of you are in this situation now, where it's like, no matter what you do, you cannot get them to respect you. Initially, it was like they didn't respect anyone other than you. Like you would go out to a restaurant and maybe the waiter messed up the order. They were having a go at them, shouting at them. It's like wherever you went, they had a problem with everyone. They were always complaining. But then you got to look at it like, even though they're arguing or complaining with other people, they're still doing it in your presence. So that doesn't mean they respect you. Even at the beginning where they were idealizing you. Because if you really respect someone, you're not going to do that. The same thing where it's like, let's say you're on the road and someone cuts you off in traffic, and maybe you get worked up and they shout at you, or something happens and there's an argument, but then you're in the car with your child. Of course, you're very considerate of your child's feelings and what they're experiencing in the world. So you're going to suppress how you might otherwise react. Because of course you respect your child's health. You don't want to put them in that type of situation. You don't want them to be involved. You don't want them to see those things. But a narcissist is very different. They don't really respect anyone. And that's how, even when you first meet them and they're idealizing you, they're still putting you in these very uncomfortable, distressing situations. Like as an example, you might go out to a restaurant and they're screaming at the waiter. But you could misread it and see it as though they're doing that because they care about you. And they're concerned about you not getting what you should have at the restaurant or whatever it may be, as though they're fighting for you. Well, actually, no, it's just all about themselves. It's all about their image, the false self. If they respected you, they wouldn't do that. So even when they're idealizing you at the beginning, they still don't really respect you. They don't respect anyone who is around them. Anyone who is near them doesn't get any respect. It may seem like they respect people sometimes in person. Like when you go out with them in public, it may seem as though they respect certain authority figures, maybe the police. But then when you go back home with them, they're talking about them to you, they're insulting them. So clearly they don't really respect them at all. It's all just an image. It's a deceptive outward appearance. The only way to gain respect from a narcissist is to distance yourself. But even then, it doesn't mean that they will respect you. Even if you do distance yourself. Because also we have to consider that narcissists, they take these mental snapshots of you. They're not looking at it like when you leave, when you move on, that you can just heal and you can grow, you can change, and things can get better for you. They're not thinking of it that way. Even if they haven't seen you for months or years, they think you're still the exact same person that they saw before you left. Because it's like that for them. You could meet a narcissist when they're 20 years old and not see them for 50 years, and they will still be the exact same person. They wouldn't have grown at all, mentally and emotionally. So naturally, they assume that you're not going to heal, you're not going to grow, you're not going to change anything. And even if they do spend some time away from you, when they see you again, they're just going to try and put you back into that mold, into the person that they remember. Because remember, they can't change or grow, and they assume that it's the same way for you. They keep this mental snapshot of you in their minds. So even though they may not have seen you for a certain amount of time, they're going to keep trying to put you back into that mold, because then they feel more comfortable. Their identity is tied to you, to how they see you and how they treat you. Because of this black and white mentality, where a person is perfect or flawed, and for them to be perfect, you must be flawed. But it's really the one way that you can gain respect from a narcissist is to distance yourself. It doesn't mean that you always will gain respect from them that way. But if there is a way that you can gain respect from them, then that is it. Because anything that's around them, they look at it like, if they're really that bad, if they're really that abusive, that harmful, that dangerous, that toxic, then what are you doing around them? If it was that bad, you wouldn't stay. And I'm not saying that, but that's how they think. That's quite literally how they think. That's how they justify it. They tell themselves that if they're that bad, you wouldn't stay around them. If they're that bad, you wouldn't give them another chance. You wouldn't go back to them. You wouldn't let them come back. You would just get rid of them and never look back. If you really believed that you deserved more. That's how they see it. So if you're around them, if you're in contact with them, they look at it like, well, this is what you think you deserve. So it's your fault. You're stupid, you're foolish for accepting this. And then they twist it in their minds as though if you're sticking around, if you're accepting it, then it must be what you deserve. So then it's not their fault. They're just giving you what you deserve. because otherwise you would leave. You would go and you would never look back. And I'm not saying that's right, I'm just saying that's how they think. They have a very twisted mind. They're not thinking of how maybe you're sticking around because you care about them, because you think you love them, because they keep promising you that they're going to change, because they're manipulating you. Maybe that's why you stick around. But they're not thinking that way. They're just finding ways to try and justify the abuse. And here's the thing as well, because sometimes even when you do distance yourself, they may not like that as well. That can really upset them because, again, it's that black or white mentality where if they see you moving on and you're healing and things are getting better for you, then even though you've distanced yourself, you're not involved with them anymore. Now they begin to feel a lot of shame. They're viewing you as being this ideal character and they feel flawed. So then they may have to come back and try to sabotage you because they're emotionally dysregulated. So they have to harm you. They have to break you so that they don't feel so broken inside. They're already very broken, damaged people. But seeing you, when you've managed to put yourself back together, when you have rebuilt your life, and then they're looking at that in contrast to themselves and their life. And of course, the more together you are and your life is, the more broken apart everything seems for them. It just makes them feel even more flawed. And that's why sometimes, even when you distance yourself and you try to move on, they may not respect that decision as well. And they may come after you. They may sabotage you because of how that makes them feel about themselves. Everything they do, it's really all about themselves. Even when it seems like it's about you, it's still about them. Anything that they do to affect another person, whether it's in a positive or negative way, it's to affect themselves in a positive way. Everything they do is all about themselves. They are really that self-absorbed. And when they're trying to affect you positively or negatively, you're really just a mirror to reflect back to them how they want to see and feel about themselves. And that's really the only purpose of it. That's why they do the things that they do. So gaining respect from a narcissist, it's a very difficult thing to do. And here's the thing, something else to consider that I was just thinking about. Even if you have distanced yourself from a narcissist and they do respect you, just because they respect you, that doesn't mean that they're going to tell you. It doesn't mean that they're going to reveal that to you. Because you've got to look at it like this. What do they get out of doing that? Narcissists are very egotistical. They always want more. They're never satisfied. It's never enough. So if they reveal to you that they respect you, that you've gained their respect, their admiration, does that not mean that now you can stop? You can stop giving and doing for them, and now it's time for them to reciprocate something back to you. So you can see it just doesn't serve them in any way to give you their respect. The only time that you may think that you see it is at the beginning of the relationship when they're idealizing you, but even then, that's not really respect. They idealize you because by doing that, initially at least, they can also idealize themselves. Because initially, even though they do have the black or white mentality, in the beginning at least, they can idealize you and view themselves as perfect at the same time. Because then it's just at the beginning and it's the honeymoon phase. So things can still run smoothly because there's no real responsibility. There's no arguments, there's no problems. They're pleasant and agreeable. So that's how that works at the beginning, where they can idealize you while idealizing themselves at the same time. But then, as the relationship moves past that, because of this black or white mentality, then they have to turn against you because it's either you or them. And no narcissist is going to choose their source of supply over their false self. That's never going to happen. At the other time, you may think that the narcissist respects you, although most of you probably won't see this. But even though you don't see it, that doesn't mean that it's not going on. If you are a good source of supply to the narcissist, they will view you as their reference point, their measuring stick to what they compare every source after to. So when they get a new source of supply, they're still using you as this reference point, this measuring stick. They're comparing them to you. And if they triangulate you with them and they're still in contact with you, then you may see it. And it may seem like they respect and admire you. But really, they're just using you like an object to manipulate and punish the new source, to groom, to condition them, to make them work harder, to make them do more. So through triangulation, it may seem as though they respect you or someone else. But even then, that's not really respect. It's just manipulation. And that's all it ever really is. Even when you think that they respect you or someone else, it's just manipulation. Or they're punishing someone through respecting someone else. They don't really respect anyone. They don't even respect themselves. If they respected themselves, then they wouldn't have abandoned their true self. They wouldn't have created a false character. They wouldn't go around manipulating people, pretending to be something they're not. And they wouldn't be devaluing you. They wouldn't be turning against you. They wouldn't be trying to mold you into something that you're not. If they respected themselves, they would respect you. They don't respect you because they don't respect themselves. They can only give you what they've got. They can't give you respect because they don't have any. So you're never really going to get respect from a narcissist. They haven't got it to give. The only possible way that you might get it, but even then, it really depends on how you define respect. But the only possible way is by distancing yourself. It's by getting as far away from them as you possibly can. Because other than that, they're just never going to respect anyone. How can they give you something that they can't even give to themselves? Something that they don't even have within? How can they respect you when they don't even respect themselves? And that's what we've got to remember. How could they ever love you when they don't even love themselves? They can't. We can only give people what we have within ourselves. So to love and respect another person, we must first learn to love and respect ourselves. By doing that, we then have love and respect to give. And you can see that the narcissist does not respect themselves, because just look at how they treat themselves. And look at how they treat other people as well. They're abusive, they're manipulative. And they already know that a lot of the things they do are not respectful. There's nothing to respect, admire, or to look up to for any of that. That's why they hide it. That's why they mistreat you, they abuse you behind closed doors. They don't do it out in the open. They don't go around telling everyone about it. They don't reveal it openly, they hide it. Because they already know there's nothing to respect about that. But narcissists, they want to be respected, even though there is nothing to respect about them. Narcissists are people who you just really can't respect at all. And why can't we respect them? I would say that the reason why is because they're very reckless and impulsive. They can't provide for themselves their own wants and needs. They're cowards. They're leeches, parasites. And they have no discipline or self-control. And of course, everyone has needs, everyone has desires. I guess the most respectful thing about a person is when you are able to suppress that. It's like, yes, you may have this hunger, but you don't cave into it. You don't let it control you, because you have morals, you have ethics, you have values. Narcissists don't have any of that. They have no ethics, no morals, no values. They have no discipline or self-control. They're very impulsive and reckless. They want something, they want it now. And they will step on anyone to get it, and they won't feel any remorse. They won't feel guilty about it. And that's what makes them so difficult to respect. But that's what it means to respect ourselves. To have that discipline, to have that self-control. Of course, that doesn't mean that we just never do anything. Never do anything fun. Just shut ourselves off from the world. Just become a monk, a nun. That's not what I'm saying, of course. But I am definitely the type of person who I am focused on not so much gaining other people's respect, although, of course, I appreciate the respect that I have from you. But what's been my mission along my journey is learning to have that respect for myself. Of course, as I mentioned, I do that through discipline, having a routine where I make these videos, I deliver these messages to you every day. And as I've spoken about in past live videos, I haven't drunk alcohol now for over 6 years. I haven't done any drugs, smoking, weed for years. I gave all of that up. Also, energy drinks, caffeine. I manage the amount of sugar that I consume. And also, I became a vegan. I think that's almost 5 years ago. So those are the things that I do as part of my discipline and self-control. Doesn't mean that I never get to have any fun, of course, but I like to test myself in certain ways and to control my desires. But I think the most important thing, above all, and this really ties into it with narcissists, when it comes to that respect for ourselves, respecting ourselves has a lot to do with respecting other people as well. It goes both ways. It's not only about if we respect ourselves, then we have respect to give to other people, but also by respecting other people, we have more respect to give to ourselves. It makes us respect ourselves more. And I think the most disrespectful thing about narcissists, what they do, is the way that they cannot control themselves from manipulating us, abusing us, and also doing it covertly as well. So they want to create this image, this perception of them being respectful, admirable people. But in reality, they're actually the exact opposite. Because they can't even control themselves, they abuse you. And if you can't even control yourself, you can't even stop yourself from harming someone, then that is really bad. And I think that's why many of us, we find it so difficult to respect these narcissists. But many of you, you feel guilt because you're empaths. You feel bad, you blame yourself. And they blame you as well. So you're constantly looking at it like, how do I get this person to respect me? But actually, you should be looking at it the other way around. You should realize that you are worthy of respect. If you're not worthy of respect, if they think that, maybe it's because you're too nice. Because you're doing far more for them than what they could ever deserve. You're doing things for them that no one has ever done for them in their entire lives. Things their own families haven't even done for them. Things that they couldn't even do for themselves, and you're expecting that from you. And you're doing it for them. If you do things for a narcissist, if you're nice to them, if you're loyal and devoted to them, if you're always there for them, they will not respect you. They will not respect that at all because they already know they don't deserve it. They know they don't deserve that from you. So when you're trying, you're doing, you're providing, it just makes them disrespect you even more. It makes them hate you even more. Because it reminds them of how you're nothing like them. They're nothing like you. Because they can't even treat you with that type of respect. They can't even do a fraction for you of what you were doing for them. So of course, yes, they know at some level they do not deserve any respect. And you do have to look at it the other way around. You're trying to gain their respect. Why don't they try to gain yours? Just look at everything they do, how they always try to mess everything up. They cause so many problems for you. They make your life miserable. They make your life hell. They're not doing anything to try to gain your respect. So why should you care about trying to gain theirs? Why should you value it? Their respect shouldn't mean anything to you. You shouldn't even want it. Why would you want the respect of someone who is abusive, who harms people? It shouldn't matter whether they respect you or not. What should matter is that you respect yourself. And you respect yourself enough to distance yourself from them. Because that's it, I mean, if you respect yourself, you're not going to choose to remain in a toxic or abusive situation. You're not going to choose to remain around something that is harming you. But then, of course, we have to look at the other side of the coin as well. Because what do? Once they know they've got you, they've trapped you, and you're invested in them, you're invested in the relationship, they know you're not going anywhere, that's when they really switch it up on you. Once they know that you can't get out. And we see this as well. Like if you're living with a narcissist and you don't have the money, you don't have the means to leave, and also even in situations where it's like you're going on a long drive with a narcissist and you're in the car you can't get out, then they'll just start arguing with you. They'll start fighting for no reason. Because when they know they've got you, you're trapped, that's when they'll really begin disrespecting you. So we've got to look at it, the other side of it as well. But that's something to remember. If some of you, you've been in this situation too long, you lack that self-love, that self-esteem, that self-respect, to the point where you're doing and giving to them whatever they need, and you're letting them harm you. Your mind, your body, you let them harm that. And I know that this may be quite a sensitive topic for some of you, but we do just have to tell it like it is. When you're involved with a narcissist, you will lose that self-love, that self-respect. You will lose yourself. And that's something that we have to recognize. Because as soon as you recognize it and you gain that acceptance that yes, I don't love myself as much as I did before, I no longer respect myself. Once you realize that, it makes it much easier to then make the changes to start respecting yourself again. And I will say, if you've been involved with a narcissist for a long enough period of time, I don't think there is any way to respect yourself from being around them. Just being around these types of people. I mean, it's like a catch-22, it really is. As I'm thinking about it now, if you're around someone who's toxic, harmful, it just reveals that you do not respect yourself. And looking at it in my own experience, I found that when I distanced myself from these abusive people, I did begin to respect myself more. I began to feel that self-love. But while I was around them, I felt a lot of shame. I felt like I was a bad person just for being around them. Because of course, the message it sends to ourselves is, if we're worth anything, if we're any good at all, then what are we doing around people like that? What are we doing around people who treat us that way? Why aren't we running for the hills? And when you realize that that's how they trap and control you. That's how they get you, by targeting your self-esteem, by making you believe that this is what you deserve. This is as good as it gets for you. This is all you're good for. It's some abusive, raging narcissist who treats you like garbage. That's what they do. That's how they get you. That's how they keep you involved, by making you think that that's what you deserve. But many of you, I will say that from watching these videos, you are on the right track already. Because what this reveals, if you're finding my content, if you're listening to my messages, that reveals that at some level you recognize that you do deserve more. You realize that you are better than that. Because if you didn't, you never would have found these videos. You would just be asleep. You would still be stuck in the relationship, just tolerating it, thinking that that's what you deserve. And when you realize that, you realize, I guess, while they may have targeted your self-love, your self-esteem, your self-respect, they didn't destroy it completely. There was still enough there for you to seek support, for you to search for an answer. And what we really have to do is nurture that self-love, nurture that self-respect. Recognize that, yes, you are deserving of more. You do deserve better treatment. Nobody deserves to be abused. Abuse is wrong. I am completely against abuse. I'm completely against harm. But these narcissists, they always have an excuse. They always find a way to justify it. But you know really what it is? They abuse because, as Dr. Ramani has said in her videos, it's the shame abuse cycle. Deep down, they know that it's them. They feel worthless inside. They feel inadequate. That's why they abuse you. That's why they disrespect you. Because I can tell you this, from all of my years of research on this disorder, psychology and spirituality as well, how a person treats you is a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves. They want you to feel how they feel. They feel like garbage. They feel worthless, so they want to make you feel that way. Because then it makes them feel better about themselves. And this is why you may notice when you distance yourself from them, you start loving yourself again. You start feeling good about yourself. And not only that, it's not like it's just some delusion in your mind like it is for the narcissist, but things actually start getting better for you. You feel stronger. You work harder. Everything comes together. You get healthier, wiser, stronger. Because that's all that this really is. It's all a fantasy that they've pulled you into, making you doubt yourself, making you think that you're not as good as you actually are. Because the reality is that you are far greater than them. You are far greater than they will ever be. And they know that, and that's why they have to keep you down. That's why they disrespect you. Because deep down they know that it's them, they just don't want it to be them anymore. So they put that onto you. They get you to doubt yourself, and that's how they control you. They control you by keeping you down. But that's how we've got to start looking at it from now on. Forget about trying to gain the narcissist's respect. The odds are you will probably never get it. And even if you do, it will be short-lived. And it probably won't even be real anyway. What you need to be thinking about is how they are not deserving of your respect, and Usually I would say that everyone is deserving of respect, but I think it's a bit different when someone is abusing you, they're harming you, and not only that, they're not being held accountable, they're not being punished. I mean, fair enough, if they abused you and then they owned up to it and they were punished for that, all right, fair enough, that's a different situation. But what we're talking about is they're abusing you, they're disrespecting you, they're harming you, and there's no accountability, no punishment, no reform. Now that is not something to respect at all. So they are not worthy of your respect. And by respecting someone, by looking up to them, by believing in their lies, their illusions, validating their false character, going along with it, by doing that while they're abusing you, they're harming you, that is automatically disrespect to ourselves. Because by doing that, it's sending a message to ourselves that we deserve that we deserve that type of treatment. And that's exactly what they want us to believe. And if you see it, they're actually quite happy when you do believe in their lies and their illusions, when you do go along with it. You will see it, you will see that narcissistic smirk. It's like, yes, got you, is how they're thinking. Because all the while they know it. You don't deserve that. You don't deserve that type of treatment. You're far better than that. That's why you see the smoke. That's why they're laughing at you. Sometimes openly, sometimes behind your back. Because they know all the while they've got you wrapped around their thumb. They know they've got you tolerating things that you should not be tolerating. They know that you are far better than that. And they're laughing at it. They're having a good laugh at your expense. Because they know they've got someone far better than them tolerating things that they should not be tolerating. But then they start to become arrogant. They start to believe in their own lies. They gaslight themselves into thinking that they're actually better than you. And then they start putting you down, devaluing you. The closer you get to them, the less they think of you. And this is why, to really heal from that trauma bond, you need to stop caring about what they think. Stop seeking their validation. Stop trying to gain their respect. And instead, what we need to do is start loving ourselves again. Start validating ourselves. We need to start respecting ourselves again. Because I can tell you, by chasing after them, by being involved with them in any sort of way, by being around them, we are not respecting ourselves. And we are not respecting ourselves because we deserve far better than that. By being around them, we are harming ourselves. It's like we are injecting ourselves with poison. If we inject ourselves with poison, we are not respecting our bodies. Same thing when we're around narcissists. When we're around them, it's harming us. So we're not respecting our own minds, our own bodies by being around them. So yes, Most likely you will never gain the narcissist's respect, but who cares? Why should we want it? Why should we care about it? Why should we value it? What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything coming from someone like that. Someone who treats people in that way. Someone who thinks it's okay to harm people. Instead, we need to focus on our own self-love. We need to focus on respecting ourselves. Because that's the only way that things are going to get better. That's the only way that things are going to change. And I can tell you, when you distance yourself from them, or at the very least, limit your time around them, you're going to start loving yourself again. You're going to start having that glow about yourself. You're going to start having healthier choices for food. You're just going to have this craving, this desire for healthier things in life. You're going to feel more motivated to work out, to be fit. You're just going to enjoy life so much more. And that's what many of you will find. And it's what I found in my own experience as well. As soon as you limit your time around them or distance yourself from them, this world just becomes a different place. You start to see things differently. You start to make healthier choices. But when you're around a narcissist, it's like you feel like you just don't care about anything. Like nothing matters anymore. You lose those values, those morals that you used to have. But once you distance yourself from them, all of that comes back. You start appreciating life again. You start feeling good about yourself again. It's like the title of my first video, which I uploaded almost 6 years ago. The narcissist doesn't want you to look or feel good. I mean, of course they don't, because they know that if people could see them as they actually are, they wouldn't look good. And they wouldn't feel good either. So of course they don't want you to look or feel good. Nala's just sitting on this chair here. She's been enjoying her dinner. I'm going to take a look at the live chat. If you have any questions, let me know. I will read them out and respond to them. These are my views on gaining a narcissist's respect and how I really believe that you shouldn't even care about the respect. You shouldn't even value it. It shouldn't mean anything to you. But let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know down in the live chat. I will read it out and respond to you. Thank you for the kind words there, Rita. Midi says, Dr. Ramani said that people from 0 to 100 believe in narcissists. Haven't heard that from Dr. Ramani herself. But yeah, it's true. I found in my own experience on several occasions, I mean, while I was around them, I just didn't feel any love or respect for myself at all. I mean, I guess there was enough there for me to find this content on YouTube. So I must have believed that I deserved better, that I deserved more. But yeah, after I left them, after I spent some time away from them, that's when I really began to respect myself more. And I'm sure many of you will find that as well. Because it's all a lie. They're gaslighting themselves and they want to pull us into it. They feel worthless and then they put that onto us. They try to get us to believe that about ourselves through the abuse, through mistreating us, because that's how they control us, by making us think that that's what we deserve. That's as good as it gets for us. But actually, no, that's as good as it gets for them. That's what they deserve because that's what they do. That's how they treat people. And this is why we should always respect people. Because by respecting people, we are respecting ourselves. And that's why we talk about on here going no contact. Because for us to respect these narcissists, I mean, yes, even though they're abusers, by respecting people, we respect ourselves. And for us to respect them, we must go no contact. And once we heal, we can show compassion from afar. Catherine Corbin asks, why do they never apologize or feel bad for the pain they cause? The best way I can describe it is from my own experiences as an empath myself. It's kind of like if someone hurts you and they say something to you, so then you say something back. And in that moment, you may feel dysregulated because you may have been seeking some form of validation from them and instead they were hurting you, so you just hurt them back. But then, as many of you empaths may find, when you spend some time away from them, you can regulate yourself. As someone who is not a narcissist, you can regulate your own emotions. And it's like once your own cup is full, you then have enough to pour into someone else's in terms of an apology, as you mentioned there, Catherine, or feeling bad for the pain that you caused someone. But with narcissists, it's different because they're very unlike us empaths. They are always dysregulated. They can't regulate themselves. They need to use this as a source of supply. So they're never going to have their cup full. They're never going to fill that void within. And that's why they will never apologize. They will never feel bad for the pain that they cause you. And instead, they will just show this arrogance and this victim playing and entitlement to where they're expecting an apology from you, even if they harmed you. Because if they harmed you, it's because they're empty, they have a void, but then also they're still empty. So they still feel entitled to an apology or to privileges or special treatment from you, because they're like emotional toddlers. They can't take care of themselves. So that's the best way that I could describe it from my own perspective, and how it works for me as an empath. If I get into an argument with someone, and then how I can regulate myself, and I feel like I want to apologize for any pain that I've caused to someone. For narcissists, it's the opposite. It's almost always just the exact opposite of an empath. So I hope that helps, Catherine. Angel Eye says it's not as easy as just to leave when you're in the middle of it. Took me years to leave. Yeah, you're right. It's not easy to leave once you're emotionally invested and maybe financially invested as well. I mean, if you've invested something into a person, into a relationship, you're thinking that you're building something with them. You're expecting something back in return, and they're giving you these lies, future faking, false promises, making you think that it's going to get better. So of course then, yeah, it causes you to stick around, sometimes for years, because we consider ourselves to be good people, and we don't want to disappoint anyone or let them down. We try to be better. We try to be the best that we can be for someone. And so we assume that other people are just like us. And it's just this cognitive dissonance from what they're telling us and displaying to us. And we just don't want to believe it. We just don't want to accept that they are actually that type of person. We want to believe in the fantasy. So of course, yes, Angel Eye, it's not easy to leave when you're in the middle of it. Eltino Taco asks, how many narcissistic people do you deal with in an average day, Narc Survivor? I don't even know. I mean, as I've spoken about in past videos, I've been dealing with narcissists my entire life, in my family, relationships, and also several smear campaigns, gang stalking since 2016. That's about 8 years of daily gang stalking. I deal with it a lot, and I'll be honest, with all the narcissists that I deal with, there's been many times where it's like, I know I got to do some work, I know I got to make videos and help people. It's like, I just feel like I can't be bothered. And I hate to say that, but I don't like to lie, and it's true. Sometimes I literally feel like I just can't be bothered to help anyone. I can't be bothered to do these videos. And it reminds me of something Dr. Brahmani said in one of her videos, where it's like, you know, after a relationship with a narcissist, many victims think that they are the narcissist. And the reason why, as Dr. Brahmani said, is because if you've got no empathy coming in, no compassion towards yourself, then you've got nothing to give out. And that's how I feel like myself many times, where it's like, I don't really get any empathy or compassion in real life. I mean, it's really just been me pretty much my entire life. I've never really had any support other than through this online community, which I'm very thankful for, of course. And also Nala as well. She has been very supportive. And I did meet some women in the Philippines that I really liked. And some of them were supportive of me and my work. And I just felt loved, you know, I felt appreciated. And that helped, you know, to have that empathy coming into myself. And yeah, I think that's really important, you know, to have that validation, to have someone who's there for you and supports you. But how many narcissistic people do I deal with in an average day? I couldn't even say. But as Dr. Ramani said, 1 in 6 people are narcissists. And that's full-blown narcissists with narcissistic personality disorder. And that doesn't include all of the other personality disorders and mental illnesses. And that doesn't include toxic people. The reality is that once you examine all of the statistics, the odds of just finding a relatively healthy person or an empath, it's extremely rare. But the world is very fake, and many of you, if you can find ways to just blend in and not be noticed, you may not even be aware of all of the narcissists, because they will just overlook you. They won't view you as a potential target. As the psychologist Ross Rosenberger said in one of his videos, as you begin to heal and you develop self-love, you will begin to see narcissists everywhere. And I'm quoting what psychologist Ross Rosenberg, the author of the Human Magnet Syndrome, has said in his video. You will see narcissists everywhere. And he said this in a video over 5 years ago. And when I was watching it, I didn't really know what he meant by everywhere. I mean, I felt like I was seeing them everywhere. And now recently, Dr. Ramani has posted videos with titles stating that 1 in 6 people are narcissists. So yes, they really are everywhere. And a narcissist, that's someone with the full-blown disorder. Doesn't include people who are just narcissistic or abusive, toxic. So this is how bad it's become in the world today. It's really that bad. But somehow, I don't know how, I still find the motivation, the strength to make these videos every day. And I've been doing it now for 6 years. And I'm really proud of myself for that. And I guess I thank God for giving me this strength, this resilience, because I know I'm helping so many of you. And that has been my mission since the start. So I'm very grateful for that I do have this resilience and strength despite everything that I'm going through. Bless Butterfly asks, are you an INFJ? You know, I did have a look through the different personality types, and from what I recall, I did do a personality test quite some time ago. I did say that I am an INFJ, but then I also noticed that it said it's very rare. It's the rarest personality type. So I was quite skeptical about that. I'm not sure if it's true, but the traits of an INFJ did resonate with me. So maybe I am, according to the quiz, I am an INFJ. It's getting quite late here, where I am now in Malaysia. Me and Nala are gonna get some rest. I'm gonna do some more work and work on my next video. But I hope you enjoyed the message today. I know many of you do like my longer videos. If you found it helpful, help support the YouTube algorithm by giving it a thumbs up down below. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Hit subscribe and click all notifications to be notified when I go live in the future. If you would like to donate, you can donate at my PayPal. It is paypal.me/Narc Survivor. I appreciate all donations, no matter how small. You could book a one-on-one session by going to my website. It's narcsurvivor.co.uk. And also follow me on Instagram, Narc Survivor YouTube. Thank you all for joining me on another Narc Survivor live video. Me and Nala. We look forward to seeing you in another live video very soon.